Throughout history, many have searched for the lost Ark of the Covenant. And who could blame them, after all, according to the Old Testament?
The Ark of the Covenant, the legendary treasure from the Bible, have just been discovered. This ancient tale from the book of Genesis weaves mystery with the sacred, and Sadok dares to suggest that these stories might be more than mere myths.
The book of Genesis, it's a nice story, of course. One that we're all undoubtedly familiar with. But could it be true?
Could this discovery finally prove that the Bible's most sacred tales were real all along? Join us as we unveil the incredible truth that could change history forever. The tragic truths of creation. In the beginning, the sky and the land were created. When God spoke, light appeared, and then darkness followed. After that, he formed the sky above and the waters below. The earth brought forth plants and trees. Animals of all kinds appeared, those that fly, crawl, and swim. Eventually, humans were created, both men and women. This story is from the book of Genesis, a tale many of us are familiar with. As humanity took its first steps, a hidden truth emerged, capable of altering history itself. But is this story true? Sadok believes that it's possible to hold both scientific and religious views without conflict.
So even many of the most critical historical scholars of the Bible would say there's something to this.
If we consider Genesis as a historical account, as many faithful people do, then we need to explore how these events might have really happened. Shatner mentions that while many scientists doubt the events in Genesis, like creation in 6 days, there is strong evidence that another biblical book, Exodus, has historical roots. However, William Shatner highlights a critical issue. If the Exodus were a historical event, there should be some physical evidence, possibly an artifact from the escape. Some experts believe such an artifact might exist: the Ark of the Covenant, a highly significant object mentioned in the Bible. It's believed that the commandments Moses brought down from Mount Sinai were kept inside the Ark of the Covenant. Alongside them were a portion of manna from the desert in Aaron's rod, which miraculously bloomed with almonds during a significant challenge among the tribes. According to Sadok, the Ark was a golden box holding a wooden box, which was inside another golden box with a golden lid. The Ark represents the divine gift of the Torah at Sinai and is considered the most sacred object in Jewish history. Hoffmeyer suggests that the Ark might have been destroyed when the Babylonians set fire to the temple. Yet the lack of any mention of the Ark in historical records has sparked widespread speculation about what really happened to it.
The Ark of the Covenant represents the giving of the Torah at Sinai from God.
Shatner points out that the search for the Ark of the Covenant has fascinated archaeologists and biblical scholars for many years. If the Ark were found, it would confirm the historical accuracy of the biblical story in the book of Exodus and could reveal incredible power. This ongoing search for understanding and knowledge keeps us exploring and trying to uncover the past. In our journey to uncover the truths hidden in ancient biblical stories, we carefully examine history to see if the events in religious texts really happened. We rely on honesty and a careful scientific approach to separate what's true from what's more like a story. Some parts might be backed up by evidence, while others might be disproven, leaving much still a mystery. One interesting theory in modern research suggests that the Ark of the Covenant wasn't lost to time, but was purposely hidden to keep its powerful influence from being misused. The idea that such a powerful object, believed to hold a divine presence, was hidden away sparks the imagination of many. For many believers and historians, finding the Ark is incredibly important. This sacred chest is seen as the seat of God, a central idea supported by biblical stories that show the Ark leading battles, striking fear into enemies. It's also believed to hold the divine light, known as the glory of God, making it not just a symbol of divine guidance, but also a source of awe and respect in religious history. Let's see how these ancient relics still inspire and teach us today. Decoding the Ark's mysteries. The mix of faith and historical research helps us better understand these ancient stories, encouraging us to piece together the spiritual heritage that still influences beliefs and cultures today. Whether based in fact or wrapped in legend, The search for such artifacts reflects our deep desire to connect with the divine. The phrase glory of God might seem like just a figure of speech, but in this context, it refers to something real and tangible. It's not just an idea or a metaphor. It's something you could actually touch, feel, and experience. This makes us think about whether we've misunderstood or overlooked something important in how we traditionally view this ancient and powerful artifact. Historically, this wasn't just a religious symbol. Its importance goes beyond that. It was infused with technology that might have been far ahead of its time. This makes the Ark of the Covenant not just a religious item,
A power that is not supernatural or spiritual in nature, but very much technological. So the powers that it had, the abilities that it was able to manifest, to this day, is still a mystery.
but one of the great wonders of human history, still capturing the imagination of those who study it today. On the outskirts of Houston, there's a church called King of Saints Church. From the outside, it looks like many other churches you might see. But inside, it holds something truly unique, a carefully crafted replica of the Ark of the Covenant. This model isn't just a rough copy, it's an exact and detailed reconstruction. Stephen Missick and his father put in a lot of effort to create this replica, offering a real connection to the ancient past of the Ark. Visitors and church members alike can get a close look at what this famous biblical artifact might have been like. Although the church might seem ordinary from the outside, it has a special place in the community because of this remarkable piece of history it holds. The Ark of the Covenant brings the Bible to life in a new and unique way. It's not just something you read about or see in pictures, it's a physical object, carefully made to match the exact instructions given in the Bible. In Exodus chapter 25, Moses shares detailed guidelines for building the ark.
Exodus chapter 25, Moses gives the blueprint or the detailed instructions of how to build the ark. And that's the instructions we use to build this with all the dimensions.
And we follow those instructions precisely, right down to every measurement. The Bible also talks about two cherubim, which are shown as winged creatures facing each other, just like it's described in the scriptures. These cherubim have the body of a lion, the face of a human, and the wings of an eagle. Unlike other depictions of the ark, which often show angelic figures, our version stays true to the cherubim described in the book of Ezekiel. These cherubim look down at the mercy seat, which is the lid of the Ark of the Covenant. For us, this ark is a powerful symbol of God's authority and how he communicates with us, both spiritually and through his words. It represents God as a ruler and offers a way for us to connect more deeply with the divine, helping us better understand the scriptures. Here we present a model of the Ark of the Covenant to emphasize its important role. Over the years, the Ark of the Covenant has been seen as a holy object in Jewish and Christian traditions. But what exactly is the Ark? Barry Leff explains that the Ark of the Covenant is incredibly significant, being the most important religious item in Judaism's history. Next, we'll explore the Ark's deep history and its impact on faith, the divine dimensions of the Ark. The story of the Ark starts in the book of Exodus, where God gave Moses detailed instructions on how to build this Ark to store the 10 Commandments. The directions were very specific, stating that the Ark should be 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits high, and 1.5 cubits wide. It was also to be completely covered with gold inside and out, reflecting its sacredness and value. On top of the Ark was a golden lid called the mercy seat, which added to its holiness and importance. This model here reminds us of the Ark's role in religious history, showing its respect and significance within these faiths. It's not just a relic from the past, but a symbol of lasting faith in divine law as given to Moses on Mount Sinai. But this wasn't the only important aspect of the Ark. Its presence in various stories and religious practices continues to influence beliefs today. In many ancient texts, like 1 Samuel 4:4, there's a reference to what's often called God's throne. This passage describes how God's throne is surrounded by cherubim.
The ark was covered by this gold lid called the mercy seat. Now, it's also known as the throne of God, mainly because we have a passage in 1 Samuel 4:4 that mentions how God is enthroned between the cherubim.
Which makes it clear that the mercy seat was considered God's royal seat. Robert Cargill shares that the Ark of the Covenant was central to Israelite worship. It represented the presence of Yahweh, the Hebrew God on earth. People looked to the Ark whenever they had questions or needed guidance, believing that it held the answers from God. When the Israelites went to war, they took the Ark with them, convinced that God's presence, through the Ark, would protect them and lead them to victory. To the Israelites, the Ark of the Covenant was more than just a symbol. It was seen as God himself among them. This area is more than 500 miles from Rome and almost 2,000 miles from Jerusalem. There's another story about the Ark of the Covenant that says it wasn't hidden in Rome, but in a French fortress from the 13th century called Château de Montségur, which is in a remote part of the region. Throughout France, from the north to the south, there are stories suggesting that the Ark was present at different times. One place where people believe the Ark might have been is Montségur, a fortress that was once home to the Cathars, a Christian group in medieval France known for their deep spiritual beliefs. Some think that because the Cathars were so spiritual, the church might have trusted them with sacred items from the Holy Land, possibly even the Ark of the Covenant. Could the Ark of the Covenant have been in southern France? This intriguing idea caught the attention of Heinrich Himmler, one of Nazi Germany's top leaders in 1936. Himmler, along with Hitler, was obsessed with finding historical relics. During the Nazi occupation, several teams searched the Pyrenees Mountains.
Himmler and Hitler were both obsessed with obtaining relics,
Heading towards Montségur, hoping to find the Ark. Even today, you can still see traces of where they dug along the mountain pass. In the heart of the mountains, people were busy searching for ancient relics. They truly believed that the Ark might still be hidden there. Heinrich Himmler was deeply fascinated by mystical practices, and these beliefs played a big role in shaping Nazi ideas. It might sound strange, but he even sent out expeditions to find these holy objects. The Nazis never found the Ark at Montségur, but it makes you wonder why they spent so much time and effort on this quest. Were they just looking for a legendary golden chest? Maybe, but many believe the Nazis had other, more secret reasons. The Ark of the Covenant was especially important to Heinrich Himmler because it was said to hold great power. The Israelites once carried this artifact during their long journey to their new homeland. It was with them during battles, giving them strength. Now we uncover the true power of the Ark and its role in history, the scientific secrets inside the Ark of the Covenant. As the Ark of the Covenant was carried forward, it unleashed powerful forces, destroying anyone who stood against its carriers. This sacred chest brought down the mighty walls of Jericho just by being nearby. It sent out bolts of lightning at enemies, showing a power that anyone would find terrifying. The Nazis, with their dream of creating a long-lasting empire, believed the Ark could help them achieve their goal of a dominant 1,000-year Reich. In the movie Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the incredible powers of the Ark aren't just made up for the film. They actually come from ancient Jewish texts and traditions. The Ark is described as a powerful weapon with unimaginable strength. That's why armies would carry it into battle. It was seen as both a deadly force and a source of protection. The stories about the Ark, based on scripture, tell of its journey toward Jerusalem. These tales highlight the Ark not just as a religious symbol, but as a source of ultimate power in times of conflict. This power made it extremely valuable, especially to those who understood how it could change the outcome of wars and shape the future of nations. But this wasn't the worst part. Its power didn't just end wars, it could change the course of history itself. The Ark's influence reached far beyond the battlefield, making it a coveted object for anyone who wanted to control the destiny of entire peoples. As the cart moved along, it suddenly jerked. In the midst of the chaos, a kind man named Uzzah instinctively reached out to stop the cart from tipping over. Tragically, as soon as he touched it, he was struck down by a divine force, which shocked everyone who saw it. It seemed the Ark on the cart held such immense power that it could take a life instantly.
But if we accept Genesis as being historical, which according to faith, of course we do, then we need to ask the other realistic questions: how and what really happened?
William Shatner wondered if this was really an act of divine punishment or something else entirely. Some people believe there might be a scientific explanation behind these biblical events. Travis Taylor discusses the Ark of the Covenant not just as a biblical artifact, but as something of great scientific interest. The scriptures describe the ark in precise detail, including its exact dimensions and the materials used, such as gold, which is an excellent conductor of electricity. This leads to the idea that the ark might have worked like a modern capacitor, capable of storing a large amount of energy. Inside the Ark of the Covenant, there's a layer of wood that doesn't conduct electricity. Wrapped around this wood is a layer of gold. This setup is similar to how we build capacitors today, which have a conductor, an insulator, and then another conductor. On top of the ark, there are wing-like structures that look a lot like the probes we see on devices such as Tesla coils or Van de Graaff generators. These probes are designed to release electricity from their sharp tips. This design hints that the ark was meant to send out energy from its top. According to Ariel Bar Zadok, the ark is believed to have used some kind of electromagnetic power. This power wasn't magical or spiritual, but based on clear technological principles. However, the full extent of what the ark could do is still a mystery. Next, we travel to a city carved from stone, steeped in spirituality, exploring Ethiopia's underground cathedrals. High in the mountains of northern Ethiopia, almost a mile and a half above the sea, lies the ancient city of Lalibela. Each year, many devoted pilgrims undertake a difficult journey to reach this place. They don't come for the ease of travel, they come for what waits in this city, a sight like no other in the world. Lalibela is home to 11 extraordinary religious structures, carved directly from solid rock, making it one of Africa's most fascinating spiritual destinations. These 11 massive churches are not built from the ground up like most. Instead, they were hewn from the top down, carved straight into the earth, creating underground cathedrals found nowhere else on earth. But it's not just the unique architecture that draws people to Lalibela. The city is also rich in intricate carvings and symbols etched into the walls of these rock-hewn churches. These designs add layers of beauty and meaning, making the visit to the sacred city both a spiritual and visually captivating experience. Yet reaching Lalibela is only the beginning of the challenge. The true test lies in understanding the deeper significance of these remarkable structures. When you look at the symbols carved into the walls of St. Mary's Church in Lalibela, a story begins to unfold. The presence of the Star of David, among other relics and architectural features, has led many to believe that the Knights Templar played a significant role in the construction of these churches.
The children of Israel have been enslaved in Egypt, and God has told Moses to go and set his people free. Moses demands that Pharaoh lets the people free. Pharaoh refuses.
Historians like Tock Thompson have highlighted the importance of the Knights Templar during the medieval period. Known for more than just their military prowess, the Templars were also master builders, deeply knowledgeable in geometry and stonework. They often combined their spiritual beliefs with their architectural skills, creating structures that have stood the test of time. Their influence, particularly in places like Lalibela, is a testament to their unique blend of practicality and spirituality. There is some speculation about whether the Templars were in Ethiopia during the time of Lalibela's construction. An Armenian geographer once described seeing men dressed in red and white with long, light-colored hair, possibly Templars. Some believe that these skilled builders either constructed the churches themselves or aided King Lalibela in their creation. There's also a theory that the Templars had a deeper motive. Some wonder if the underground churches of Lalibela were designed to protect something incredibly valuable. Author Shatner speculated that the Ark of the Covenant, the golden chest said to contain the original 10 Commandments, might have been hidden in Lalibela long ago. The Templars, who once guarded the Temple of Solomon, have been involved in the construction of Lalibela's churches to keep the Ark safe. The connection between the Templars, the intricate carvings, and the underground fortress-like design of the Lalibela churches hints at a story waiting to be fully understood. Whether they were built to protect sacred relics or simply stand as a testament to the spiritual devotion of their creators, the churches of Lalibela continue to inspire awe and wonder in all who visit.
Mary's final resting place. After Jesus died and came back to life, stories about him and his family were passed down by word of mouth. Over time, these stories were written down, but different versions appeared, leading to different ideas about her life and how it ended. Some believe she died peacefully in her old age. Others say she was martyred like many early Christians, and a few think she went straight to heaven without dying. As centuries passed, a mysterious text surfaced, rumored to hold the true account of her final days, a revelation that could change everything we thought we knew about the early days of Christianity. But now, researchers believe they have found what could be her final resting place, hidden from the world for centuries. This discovery is making many people rethink what they've believed for a long time. The tomb is in the Kidron Valley, just northeast of Jerusalem's Old City. This area is rich in religious history and is the resting place of many other important figures from the Bible. The Kidron Valley, lying at the base of the Mount of Olives, holds a deep connection to history and religion, especially in Christian and Jewish beliefs. This valley is thought to be the place where the final judgment will happen, and it is home to several important tombs and buildings from different times. One of the most significant sites in the valley is her tomb, which is especially important to Eastern Christians. They believe this is where she, the mother of Jesus, was buried. While some think that she was taken straight to heaven, others believe she was buried and later brought back to life, similar to her son. Over time, the site has gone through several changes. The first building here was a church, built in the 4th century by Constantine I. The structure we see today, which includes a crypt that can be reached by going down a staircase lined with chapels, was rebuilt in the 14th century by Franciscan friars. The area around her tomb also has other important Christian sites like the Garden of Gethsemane and the Church of All Nations, adding to its spiritual value. Though the Greek Orthodox Church is responsible for the tomb, it is shared with other religious groups, reflecting the complex history of religious control in this area. But the valley's significance doesn't end with Christianity. There are also monuments like Absalom's Pillar and the tomb of Zechariah, which are tied to the Bible. However, experts now believe that these are actually the tombs of important citizens from Jerusalem during the Second Temple period. This place, filled with layers of history and archaeology, continues to draw both researchers and people on spiritual journeys. Yet, this isn't the only fascinating part of the Kidron Valley. The valley, with its rich mix of stories and faiths, remains a key part of the spiritual and historical heart of Jerusalem, influencing both its past and present. Researchers, excited by their find, opened the ancient tomb, hoping to discover old relics or artifacts. But when they opened it, they found the tomb was empty. This led some to believe that maybe she was taken up into heaven, like the Bible says happened to Elijah, Enoch, and her own son. In Christianity, this event is called the Assumption. This difference in how people think about her end is even more interesting when you look at the views of different Christian traditions. For example, the Catholic Church teaches that she never experienced death, just like Jesus. On the other hand, the Eastern Orthodox Church believes that she did die, was buried, and then came back to life before going up to heaven. The belief in the Assumption is a key teaching in the Catholic Church. On November 1st, 1950, Pope Pius XII made it official through a declaration called Munificentissimus Deus. This teaching is closely linked to the belief in the Immaculate Conception, which says that she, like Jesus, was born free from original sin. However, there is still a question about whether she died before being taken to heaven. When Christianity split in 1054, different ideas about her final moments appeared. In the Eastern Church, her death is called the dormition of the Mother of God, meaning a peaceful passing, almost like falling asleep. This shows how much respect she holds for Christian beliefs. But the story doesn't end there. Looking further into her final days, we find even more fascinating details that have captured the attention of believers for centuries. Her story is deeply tied to church teachings, and even though the Eastern Orthodox Church doesn't consider the Assumption an official doctrine, they still honor it and include it in their religious traditions and celebrations. By looking at Munificentissimus Deus, Christians can see that Pope Pius XII wanted this belief in her Assumption to strengthen everyone's faith. For many, her journey represents what they hope for in their own lives: resurrection, and eternal life. There are different stories about how her life ended. One famous legend from the 7th century tells how Thomas, one of Jesus' disciples, missed her death. When he arrived at her burial place, he found the tomb empty except for her clothes. Over time, this story changed, and some versions say that she even dropped her belt from heaven as a sign to Thomas. This moment has been depicted in many works of art. But that's not the most interesting part. The celebration of the Assumption has been part of Christian tradition for a very long time, going back to the 5th century. Historical records show that in about the year 600, Emperor Maurice made it an official feast day in the Eastern Roman Empire. The idea of the Assumption comes from old Christian stories, not found in the Bible today, that were passed down orally by Jewish Christian communities during or shortly after the time of the Apostles. Turning the page, we will now explore how this groundbreaking discovery might alter the theological landscape and our understanding of sacred history. The assumptions shift in Christian faith. These stories are so powerful that many people believe them to be true. However, scholars have pointed out that these tales have changed over time. The way we think of the Assumption today might be very different from how it was first described. Even so, the traditions surrounding this belief are rich and offer even more to explore when we look at their historical and cultural background. In trying to understand when early Christians started believing in her Assumption, many scholars look at an ancient text from the 2nd to 3rd century called the Liber Requiae Mariae, or Book of Mary's Repose. However, this document isn't considered a fully reliable historical source because some of the stories in it don't line up with what Christians of that time actually believed. Despite these issues, some scholars think that the belief in her Assumption didn't really take hold until the 5th century. But this raises an interesting question. If the idea came up so late, how did the story of her Assumption manage to spread and stick around for so long? One key figure in the 4th century, Epiphanius of Salamis, spent a lot of time trying to figure out how her life on earth ended. But despite his efforts, he couldn't find any solid evidence about what really happened to her. Another curious thing is that neither the Bible nor the early Christians left any records of her death. When Epiphanius asked around, he got all kinds of different answers, and sometimes the stories didn't even agree with each other. One common idea was that her departure from earth was like Elijah's, who was taken alive into heaven according to the Bible. This idea kept coming up, even as other stories about her death floated around. But this wasn't the only mystery. By the 5th century, new texts like De Obitus Domini and De Transitu Virginis started to support the idea that she had ascended to heaven. Important figures such as Dionysius, the Areopagite, and Gregory of Tours also backed up similar stories, which helped make the belief in her Assumption more widespread. By the 6th century, the belief became officially recognized, and by the 8th century, most Christians accepted it as fact. A dramatic addition to the story came from John of Damascus, who told of her dying with the apostles at her side. But when they later checked her tomb, they found it empty, which led them to believe she had been taken up to heaven. This version of events became a key part of Christian belief, and over time, the celebration of her Assumption became almost as important as Christmas. But the story doesn't end there. In a surprising turn of events in 1950, a man named Gilles Bourhours claimed that he had a vision of the Virgin Mary on May 1st. He told the Pope about his vision and said that her ascent to heaven was a real historical event. Pope Pius XII, who had been looking for confirmation of this belief, welcomed Bourhours' account as the proof he needed. Just 6 months later, the Pope officially declared her Assumption to be true, ending centuries of debate and uncertainty. Even though the Pope made a clear statement, many Catholics were still unsure. Some thought that she might have died before going to heaven and then was brought back to life by a miracle. This idea is called the moralistic interpretation. On the other hand, some people in the Church believe that she went straight to heaven without dying, and this is known as the immoralistic interpretation. As time passed, more scholars began to study different Christian traditions, prayers, and scriptures. Gradually, more people started to lean towards the idea that she did die before going to heaven. Every year, on August 15th, Catholics worldwide celebrate the Feast of the Assumption. Interestingly, the Eastern Orthodox Church also celebrates this day, referring to it as the Dormition of the Mother of God. This title emphasizes the belief that the Virgin Mary did not experience death in the typical sense, but rather fell asleep in a peaceful transition. Orthodox Christians commemorate her departure from earthly life and the subsequent assumption of her body and soul into heaven. The term dormition, meaning falling asleep, reflects the Church's view that Mary passed into eternal life without the corruption of death, marking this event as both a solemn and joyous occasion in Orthodox tradition. Different Protestant groups have their own views about her Assumption. Some agree with the moralistic view with little hesitation, while others are strong believers in it. The Anglican Church has a mixed opinion. Some members strongly believe in it, others completely reject it, and some just don't care much either way. Originally, this belief wasn't part of Anglican teachings. However, by the 20th century, it started to become more accepted, especially among certain Anglo-Catholic groups, though they use different names for it. Now, let's turn our attention to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, which is believed to be the place where Jesus' tomb is located. This tomb has always been covered by a marble slab, but in October 2016, something amazing happened during some restoration work. A group of researchers was able to remove the marble cover and reveal the exact spot where many believe Jesus was laid after his crucifixion. Deep inside the cave, this site is a key part of Christian history. The tomb was originally found empty by a group of women, and today it's inside a small structure called the Edicule. Starting in 2017, Professor Antonia Maropoulou and a team of Greek researchers began working on restoring the Edicule and the tomb. But they weren't just fixing things. This was a rare chance to study a site that had been hidden from the public for so long. Their careful work uncovered details about how the tomb was originally built and how it changed over time. Their research also highlighted how important this site has been to believers for centuries. Using advanced tools, they recorded all their findings very carefully. But that wasn't the most exciting part. As they continued their research, they hinted at a major discovery coming soon. Professor Maropoulou suggested that they were about to reveal something that could change how people understand a crucial part of Christian faith. Everyone was waiting for what could be a history-changing moment. Having explored the layers of faith and folklore, let's shift our focus to another pillar of Christian history, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a quest for Christian relics. In the middle of a busy gathering of Christian believers, a group of experts was working hard inside the Edicule, a structure believed to house Jesus Christ's tomb. Their task was to carefully remove a large piece of marble. When they finally did, they were surprised to find another layer of stone underneath it. This unexpected discovery made them even more curious, and they began to carefully examine this new section with their specialized tools, hoping to find pieces of Christian history that had been hidden for a long time. What made their work even more important was the fact that they were inside the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is believed to be the place where Jesus was buried. This church is considered a very holy site, and it is managed by 6 different Christian groups, showing how important it is to people all over the world. The Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic, and Armenian Orthodox churches have the biggest say in how the church is taken care of. But they are not the only ones involved. The Coptic, Ethiopian Orthodox, and Syriac communities also help take care of the church. Together, they make sure that the church stays open to the many visitors who come every year to see this sacred place. Another important site is her tomb, which has been destroyed and rebuilt several times. The current structure was built in the 14th century by Franciscan friars. Now, the Greek Orthodox Church manages the tomb. Visitors are led down an old staircase to 2 small chapels, one dedicated to Joseph, her husband, and the other to her parents. At the end of this journey, visitors reach her tomb, where various old objects from the Middle Ages have been found, each with its own story to tell. But this isn't the only mystery. There are many different ideas about where her final resting place could be. Some say it's in Turkmenistan, others think it might be in northern Iraq, and a few even believe it could be in Murree, Pakistan. These theories lead people to wonder how her remains could have ended up in such faraway places. Some stories suggest that she traveled a lot after her son's death, even making a journey to India with the Apostle Thomas. According to one legend, she passed away in Turkmenistan, where the Apostle Thomas was the only witness to her ascent to heaven. This story has become an important part of the tales about her life and travels. When Thomas told everyone about her death and how she went to heaven, they didn't believe him right away. Their doubts only grew when the only thing found in what was thought to be her tomb was her belt. This made the story even more mysterious. Let's look into a new discovery that might give us some clues about her life. No matter how her story is told, it's clear that she, the mother of Jesus, is deeply loved and respected by Christians. The details of her last days before going to heaven aren't fully known, but her role in the Christian faith is extremely important. She is seen as a symbol of devotion, purity, and grace. While we may never fully understand everything, many hope that one day we might discover where she was finally laid to rest. Some believe she was taken up to heaven with her body, showing how unique and important she is in the faith. But this isn't the most surprising part. There are many stories about her last days and where she was buried, but something truly amazing has come up. Scientists and archaeologists now claim they may have found the Virgin Mary's tomb. If this turns out to be true, it could change how we think about her life and the way it ended on Earth. Finding her tomb would create a real connection to one of the most revered figures in Christianity. As we think about these new findings, it's important to remember her key role in Christian history and her lasting influence on millions of believers. Her presence isn't just about her physical life, it has touched people across generations and cultures. Even though this discovery is groundbreaking, there could be more to learn about her life and the ways she continues to inspire. This discovery invites us to think more deeply about her life and the unanswered questions that still surround her. While the evidence is still being studied, the chance of learning more about her final days is exciting. It brings us closer to understanding the past and strengthens our faith in the stories passed down through time. However, this may not be the final chapter in her story. There could be more secrets waiting to be found. And if this tomb is indeed hers, it could lead to some big questions about the core beliefs of Christianity. What are your thoughts on this recent discovery? Could this challenge core Christian beliefs about Mary's final days? Share your views in the comments below, like and subscribe for more.